Hello and welcome to another insightful episode of Life Trek, where we take you through the journey of life, one conversation at a time. I'm Namrata, your host for today, joined by my friends and co-hosts Sangeeta and Madhumita.
Hi.
Hi. Today we are diving into a topic that's been the center of countless debates and awkward conversations. Yeah, we are talking about generation gap, that magical divide that turns music into noise, fashion into rebellion, and texting into the death of conversation. These differences between generations can be frustrating, heartwarming, and sometimes really bizarre.
Absolutely. Whether it is a teenager struggling to explain their career choice to their parents, grandparents trying to keep up with digital trends, or even colleagues from different age groups working together in a team, generation gap is everywhere. But is it really a gap or just a breeze waiting to be built between different ways of seeing the world?
Our grandparents thought our parents were too modern. Our parents thought we are too carefree. We think our children are too screen obsessed, and they think Gen Alpha is growing up in a sci fi movie. So, are we really that different, or do we just express the same struggles in different ways? That's the big question we'll explore today. And later on in the show, we'll have two special guests joining us to share their perspectives on this generational shift. So, let's get started. Why does the generation gap exist in the first place? Is it just about age, or is there more to it?
Namrata, 40 years back, I would have never thought that I would be even uttering this phrase, forget discussing it in public like this. Every time my mom said generation gap, I thought that was just a term. And I knew she would never ever understand me, that she was too old fashioned and I was too cool for her. Interestingly, over the last few years, that's exactly what I hear from my daughter, that I'm too old fashioned to ever understand her, her dressing sense, her music, her dances, and her habits. And it's sometimes like deja vu. I've been there, done that. So to
Right.
start off, I would just like to understand, the what and the why. Namrata, you live with multiple generations. What do you think?
Madhu, I think let's be real. Every generation thinks that the one before it was outdated and the one that's coming after them is doomed. It's a tale as old as time. So, and a lot of this perceived gap has to do with the environment we grow up in. Each generation is shaped by the culture, the economy, the major world events, the societal influences, and the infrastructure of their time. For example, our grandparents grew up in a world of limited resources, closed societies, and traditional values, while today's kids are growing up in a digital, fast paced, globalized world. Like, say, when my grandparents were young, it was more like Vasudeva Kutumbakam. They had to manage three, four generations of people staying together under one single roof and derive values from all those people. But for entertainment, all they had was a transistor or a radio that had programs for a very short period of time in the day. And when it came to my parents' time, the family dynamics shifted to probably a smaller family, and the entertainment was about a black and white TV. And now for our
Yeah.
children is a max of 3 to 5 people at home, and but the opportunities for entertainment are just endless. So the world has come a very long way but in the process the gap has widened. It's really widened a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so true. If you think about another aspect of how life was for our parents versus how it is for us today, the way we communicate, the way we view success, and even our lifestyle choices are so different. And
Yeah.
sometimes these differences lead to misunderstandings and even conflicts. And that's where the gap forms. But I don't think it is just a generational thing. I feel some older people adapt well to change, while some younger ones still hold on to traditional values and
Absolutely.
resist change.
Mm.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sangeeta, so that's exactly what I feel. It's not just about age, it's about your openness to change. So
Mm.
maybe we should be talking about generational perspectives rather than generation gap. Because it's less about age and more about adaptability.
Mm.
I don't think that's always true, though. Let's take something very simple. Till a few years back, be it our generation or our parents, we believed in the circadian rhythm. So, waking up early and sunrise Waking up early with sunrise, getting back to home at sunset, sleeping on time, everything followed the cycle of nature. Okay, but today you see something totally different. The younger generation is not really into following the rhythm. They sleep late, wake up late, and don't follow the discipline we are used to. And they're okay with it. They don't think it's important. They think it's very cool. Whereas we always said early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. That
Really.
doesn't work for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sangeeta, you are right. I remember in our times, getting up late was not an option. If we did not get up on time, mom would give us one kick or maybe pour water on us. Even when I was in my 40s, I remember when I went home, dad would wake me up at 5 with a cup of tea and said, Isko pee lo, fir so jao tum. But I believe, coming back to what you were saying about the younger generation, I believe there's a real reason for that. Be it
That's
studies,
also true.
yeah, be it studies, work, or even socializing, there's a huge shift in culture now. It's
Mm.
a wide open globalist world out there. This generation studies, works, and socializes in a completely different time dimension. They are either working till late, or they're talking with friends from other time zones, or they're having watch parties with people from other time zones. And
Mm.
so they're sleeping late. And
Mm.
of course, if they sleep late, they'll wake up late. That's the
Yeah.
fact of life.
Mm. I think I feel the younger generation does not consider the circadian rhythm or our definition of discipline as sacred. They have their own ways of doing things that suit them. But unfortunately, the older generation views this as a lack of discipline, whereas the younger generation thinks this is perfectly normal, and like always, we get caught in the middle.
Absolutely. Another difference I see, which I'm fascinated by, is the fact that this generation, the younger one, they know what they want and they know how to get what they want. This is
Mm.
in complete contrast to our generation or even the generations before us, where we put our needs last and we compromised and adjusted for the sake of others.
Mm.
Personally, I'm happy at this change, but it does create a huge emotional gap between the generations.
I think the older generation had a value system where they had to listen to their elders and value the experience of the older people. It was not a choice, it was sort of compulsory. But the value system over a period of time has diluted to become less rigid and more fluid. And today, the younger generation doesn't believe in blind obedience. They do what they think that is right. They are very assertive about it. They are more agile in their thoughts and forthright in putting their opinions. This sometimes can create difference in opinions.
Absolutely, and that's an interesting thought about the discipline and agility and everything. But since you spoke about agility, I want to ask from a different angle. From large joint families, our parents moved to nuclear families, and most of them have coped okay with this change, as well as the resulting isolation they have now. But how many of the younger generation can do the reverse? Transition from the nuclear family setup where they rule to a joint family setup where everyone has an opinion. My question to you then is the younger generation agile enough to move to situations that are not comfortable for them?
Well, personally, I think the young will find that a very hard transition. But then
Mm.
that proves my point to a certain degree. All of us were brought up in a certain way. How fast we adapt to the change around us is what defines whether we have a gap with other generations around us. Because change is the only constant in this world. And so the real generation gap is between those who embrace this change and those who resist it, rather than just the young versus the old. I think it's more like agility versus rigidity. This is what contributes to the actual gap.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think yeah, agility versus rigidity is something I've never heard before, but that's wonderful to describe this, Namrata. I'll keep that thought with me. So, Sangeeta, another big gap I see is the shift from the we to the me culture. I know you're very passionate about this topic. You are also surrounded by a lot of seniors and kids. So, what's your opinion about this?
See, Madhu, I absolutely agree with that. As a society, we have transitioned to nuclear families. So
Hmm.
there are lesser opportunities to learn. We are having lesser siblings. We are having lesser opportunity to share emotions and responsibilities. So this has led to spending less time with close relatives and family. we are spending more time with gadgets and online activities. So today individuality and personal space are prioritized so much that a lot of young people, they don't even want to get married,
Hmm.
as they don't want to adjust. Marriage is all about adjustment and compromise. So and so much so that they prefer pets over children. Okay, and and also they like to go for solo vacations over family get-togethers. They prefer video calls over personal visits. I don't like this change, but I think we have to wait and see how they are going to cope up with this in future, and
Mhm.
whether it's a good thing or a bad one.
Yeah, I think there's no good or bad about this. It's a mixed bag. The personal freedom is very important, but sometimes the I first mindset leads to isolation.
Absolutely, Namrata. So maybe perhaps one needs to find a way to balance personal growth while still being part of a larger community. Maybe
Hmm.
that could be a solution.
So, talking about personal growth and practicalities, I would like to bring up a very delicate topic. One of the biggest conflicts between generations is about money, the savings versus the spending debate. Now, our parents saved every penny, but today's youth believes in spending as they want. Older generations believed in saving for the future, whereas the younger ones believe in enjoying life now. So then, does the younger generation value money less, Sangeeta?
I don't think it's about valuing money. It's about access to more money and using it differently. Our
Absolutely.
parents had bigger families to support, so lesser access to disposable income. So they spent only on what they considered necessity. But our generation had slightly more disposable income, and we spent on what was necessity for us. Same with the next generation, and they're really financially more literate than us.
Absolutely, Sangeeta. Someone once told me, and I agree with that, that this generation is reworking its relationship with money. So the definition of necessity and luxury evolves over time across generations, and these disagreements will never stop.
I'm okay with that. What I don't like is this access to money has also affected how people spend their free time. Earlier, weekends meant visiting relatives, as what was perhaps the only thing what we could afford. On holidays, we used to visit families and relatives, go to our villages. But today, it's about going to malls, cafes, theaters, a long drive, or again, solo travel. And I believe when we replace family time with malls and nightlife, we do lose something valuable, and that is human connections.
True,
Absolutely.
true. That's so true.
So the key takeaway is we need to balance financial security with living in the moment and finding a balance between new experiences and old connections. Yeah.
But I'm getting very stressed out. You guys are really stressing me out. Do you think this generation gap can ever be bridged?
Yeah, I think it can, through communication, empathy, and mutual respect. If we listen to each other instead of just defending our own views, we can learn a lot. For example, instead of saying in our time we used to do masala paste on silbatta and now you do it in grinder, and so there's no difference in taste. There's a big difference in taste rather. The older generation can say, "Wow, cooking is so much more easier now. Wish we had these gadgets then too." And the newer generation, instead of going on the defensive, would say, पर दादी तुम्हारे जैसे खाना मैं कभी नहीं बना सकती, तुम्हें बहुत तकलीफ तो सहे होंगे, पर खाना बनाने के लिए तुमने जो किया है, जो बनाते हो, it was certainly worth it. you know the difference is, the appreciation versus pulling down. This is just one
Absolutely.
example, but this civility, willingness to understand, and the empathy will go a long way in bridging the gap.
Absolutely.
I
I
agree,
also.
Namrata.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And on that note, let's bring in our guests to share their own experiences with generational shifts and how they have adapted.
So today we have Sasmita Panda, a sociologist, retired educator, and an observer of human interactions. We also have Shrishti Tripathi, a student of economics in DU, who loves arguing and putting across a point politely but assertively to her grandparents. They are related to each other, so this is going to be very interesting to watch.
Welcome to Life Trek, ladies. We are delighted to have you both here. Let's start with a quick bite from both of you. What do you think generation gap is? Let's begin with Sasmita ma'am. Sasmita ma'am?
Thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast. Uh, j- uh, uh, while talking about generation gap, I will just say that it is very simple. It is just the difference of values, attitude, beliefs, and the way these people talk with the other generation people. These are all differences uh, that uh, that is grown between two different sets of people, like different age group of people. So it's not that very difficult thing to understand because of this technological advancement. When the world is progressing, our generation people, I mean, our generation means I'm talking about the baby boomers, like those who are 60 plus. Then we are not very quick and adaptive like this generation people to this fast pacing technology. So this creates most of the generation gap between us, and then our growth, the stage where we grew, that was let us come to the family system first. We grew up in a I mean joint family system, where 3 to 4 generation we have grown together, taking responsibility and supporting each other. But this generation, I think they don't know about joint family systems. Hardly they know, but then hardly they know about these things. And responsibility meaning has also changed.
Interesting, because this
Focus.
is what we've talked about
Right.
before we
What?
Yeah, right.
yeah, we were talking about all these points, and you've covered the entire 30 minutes discussion in just a few sentences.
Now
Yeah.
moving on to Srishti, what is your take on this?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. Of course, Sashmita ma'am, aka my dadi, summarized it very well for all of us. She summarized it actually really well. The generation gap is basically the difference in experiences between different generations. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with a few of my friends, and they described how Generation Z or Gen Z has started from 1997, and I did not quite agree with them, because for maybe for American people or the westernized countries, the Generation Z or Gen Z has started from 97, because of the advent of because of liberalization and because of the advent of technology at that time, and a boom of computers. So they grew up with computers, but not our generation, not the people starting from 97 in our country, and not especially in Odisha, where I shared a part of my childhood. So I feel generation gap is not just about, it's about experience, solely it's about experience, but we cannot classify it as difference in terms of years. It cannot be calculated as such. So yes, as Mama Nani said, it's mostly about the experiences that we share because of the society that we are in at the present moment. So for me, I would consider myself more of a millennial than a Gen Z, because I don't know much of the lingo. So yeah, that's it. I feel like generation gap is experience, virtues, and values that we share with our society at the moment. Mhm.
So, Sasmita ma'am, I would like to ask you, do you think today's younger generation has it easier or harder than your time?
No, I won't say it's either easier or harder. Easier in some things and harder in some other things. Easier in the way they have access to the knowledge. Easier in the way they have access to the technological advancement. Easier in a way that they have more. I mean, what to say? Uh, Different types of jobs and career they choose. But in our time, it was not available. We had only two, three choices. Either you be engineer or doctor, or you go for manual laborer, or you go for teacher, or anything like that. But they have a lot of, opportunity on that side. And then harder in the sense, if you see the rate of inflation, if you see the high price rising, in our time we could possess a house easily. We could work, we retired with a pension, we lived our life happily. But this time they are struggling. They're struggling more for the jobs. They don't have job stability, and they change it frequently. They have to reskill themselves very frequently. Otherwise, they cannot compete with their, I mean, their partners or their friends or anyone. So they have also had a life in that sense, if I say. So it's both.
So, one point she made earlier about emojis being used. So, I recently watched this show, Adolescence. I am sure that you must
Yes,
have
yes,
heard of it.
yes,
So,
yes. I
I
also.
recently Yeah, so I watched that show, and one thing took me by surprise is that when the officers tried to analyze the Instagram texts between Jamie and the girl, that Katie, I guess, so they thought that that was a friendly banter, but little did they know that those emojis that they thought were friendly carried some meaning. So I did not know that all the different colors of heart emojis carry different meanings. For me, they were just another rainbow colored hearts I would send to my friends. So I think, yeah, again, Western countries have it much more, they are much more advanced than us in terms of this generation gap. So now answering to your question, well, I believe that I am not the right person to answer this question because I have not experienced the youth that you people enjoyed in your in your life, because I am only there to experience my childhood or my youth. So for me, there is no comparison. This is the only life that I'm living right now. So cannot say it is easier or hard, but yes, there are some perks from your childhood. You get to from what I've heard from Dadi, my Dadi's childhood was that she would go around in the parks. She would play a lot. That didn't happen in my childhood because I grew up in a urban area with a vivid city life. So I did not have lot many parks. I had roads, literal congested roads, very unsafe for all of us. So my childhood playground was the terrace of my building. That is not a lot. So that is one thing. Again, information sharing is much easier right now. We have access to a lot of knowledge base. We have access to a lot of different information which we take up to make different choices. So that is easy for us. Yes, I cannot imagine how I would stay connected with friends without WhatsApp or social media. That is really, really easy. But again, different generations have their own perks and own shortcomings. For us, the biggest shortcoming I feel is that we have become like one global unit, like Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Uh, so LinkedIn has put me, not exactly, but put all of us, like all my college friends, we've been put in a pressure position to perform, to showcase our talents or whatnot. But yes, again, as I was saying, I come from a family which does not really focus so much on external validation. And I come from a circle like Odisha does not still have that, Bhubaneswar particularly, does not still have that thing or a knack for social media. So those things that have taken over the Western world has only come to India in the cosmopolitan areas of Mumbai, Delhi, or Kolkata. So when I came to Delhi from Odisha, that was a big culture shock for me because people were carrying Stanley cups, which I think still is a wasteful expenditure. uh, because you can just carry your own cup. But moving on, as like connecting to it, these things have not yet reached some part of India, most parts of India. And that's why, because of my surrounding, I don't feel pressurized to perform or, act certain way in social media. But that does not take the fact away that it is prevalent in our generation or the generation that people term as Gen Z. So this is like a pressure point for all of us and a difference between the generations. Like everybody is watching one another. You have to live up to that glitz and glamour life that influencers are posting on social media. That is a big hassle for most of the youngsters, and that's how the pressure builds up. Even in adolescent, connecting back to it, I think the pressure to have a girlfriend, to post your life in a certain way, led to that very drastic step.
This is something your generation and our generation needs to understand about the younger ones. the amount of pressure they are under because of global exposure or a more global world. Srishti, I would just like to ask you one thing. Do you ever feel judged by us, by your parents or your grandparents' generation for your choices, be it your education, your career, your lifestyle, the clothes you wear, social media habits? Do you feel judged, and how do you handle it?
Honestly, I have never felt judged because of anything that I have personally taken up in my life. So, for those of you who don't know, I came from a pure science stream background with computer science as my optional subject. And but I wanted to venture into the field of economics, and I chose to do it. And my family, like including uh, everybody here on this panel and my parents also supported in my me in my decision. I never felt judged because of my social media habits because I have none. I don't post much, and I have yeah, basically I have never felt judged by any of my parents or my any of my family members. Having said that, I am uh, I am not like the symbolism of Generation Z. So I more identify myself as a millennial, maybe not even a millennial. So uh, asking me whether or not I feel judged by things that are around me that are supposed to affect me is like a bit of an understatement because most of the things I do not stand by. So also, even if somebody would have judged me, I don't think I put in a lot of effort to look at what other people are saying. So somebody might have judged me because I hear a lot of these things like, how did you take up economics after you pursued your science degree? So that might have happened, but I don't think I ever felt that. But I think it's a bit of the utopian world that I'm living in my head. I'm sure it's not the case with everybody else, but I'm really, really grateful for the surrounding that I am in that has made me like this, not to care about the world so much.
But this is what we were also talking about, that your generation doesn't really bother what people think of them. You have that level of confidence or security or whatever you have. Our generation was very, very, concerned about whether the society thinks, what the society thinks of us. So that's that's a big difference. Sangeeta, you wanted to ask something.
Can I just
Uh,
interject here to answer
Yeah,
your question? I'm so sorry.
that's okay.
Yeah. So I think that could be because, like as you said, internet was not prevalent in your time. For
Yes.
us, it is prevalent. So we have been looked at since the very beginning. Like, yeah, that's one thing. Like we have been looked at. So right now, I remember back in the days, like I guess 10 years old. And when I started using Facebook, it's very early, I know, but that actually helped me. At that time, I really cared about the likes. So when you care about likes from the age of 10, you don't really care about them at the age of 15, when that really takes a toll on your mental health. So I think I was exposed to this area a little more earlier than you guys. That's why it didn't really affect me. And adding to that point, I guess what I remember my father told me about his childhood, that was a very closed space. Everybody knew everybody else. So if you, as my parent or my guardian, think ill about me, that would really affect me because I want your respect. I want you to think highly of me. So I think when you lived in a close surrounding where everybody knew everybody else, everybody needed that validation from the people they knew. So I think that is again the generation gap that we are talking about.
Very well said.
I just want to add something like Srishti said, she is very happy that she has brought up in a very secured environment. But I don't think this is the fact about all the
Other-
boys and girls of her generation, because I have been teaching for around 18 years in different organizations, and I have seen people like they are being bullied by internet for their their body shape, their their fashion sense, and their genders and everything. And you can also see, look at the suicidal rate these days happening. Means how much they care when they are judged. So it's nice to hear that she felt that she was not judged. I wish all the children of her is feel the same way, but I don't think it is the case.
Mm.
Pressure is a lot. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
True.
precisely.
Okay, ma'am, what is one tradition you feel the younger generation they should follow from your generation? I mean, they should hold on to one tradition.
I think there are plenty, like being respectful, being, uh, showing gratitude and so many things. But if you ask me about only one thing, that will be patience and resilience, because these traits can carry them through their ups and downs. That is the one thing that kept us going on and motivated us to go with the flow. I believe that will be the major one thing in the life. I don't know if Srishti agrees.
Srishti, what do you think about that?
I completely agree with the patience and resilience thing because, again, connecting back to social media because it affects our life so much right now. It has, when I was using social media a lot, when I came to college, I realized that my patience level reduced a lot, decreased a lot because you are consuming short form content. You are not used to those. Earlier, you used to have those ad breaks in between the TV serials. Like, whatever one TV serial would have 15, at least 20 minutes of ad break. So you would watch through that because you did not have any other option. But then came Tata Sky Dish TV where you could forward the ads. Then came OTT and then came social media and OTT around the same time. So you're so used to this short form content that you're bored by 15 seconds in 15 seconds. So you just want to get done with things. So my life has become fast paced not because of the kind of work that I'm doing, but because of the virtual world that has been created around me. So I really need a little more patience and resilience. I go to an NGO. Today was my last day working in that. I teach young children, grade 2 to 3, and then I see them, those 2 hours when I teach them, it's the most beautiful because I look at them enjoying small, small things. Like one would show me, Didi, I got this new pen or I got this new eraser. They would get so happy with those small things. Then it would make me realize, one day it really made me realize that if I could just slow down and look at the things that are around me, which made me happier earlier, then it would be much more easier for me. Like, yes, patience is one thing that our generation really needs to understand that, understand or take up from your generation. And with that patience, I think comes a little bit of resilience, which would help us go through difficult times.
Yeah, I think
Very
despite all these differences, there's always something we can learn from each other, right? Like as you pointed out, both of you agreed on that one point. So, what's that one thing you've learned from the other generation that has positively influenced you, ma'am?
Then again, there are plenty. I wish I could be as tech savvy as they are, and I could be as fast adapting to the changes like they are. But if you ask me for one thing, like I will say, their open-mindedness. They they are so vocal. They are so vocal about their rights and their needs. And in our time, we were not.
Yeah,
मैंने मैं जब छोटी थी, even we were abused. If we were abused also, we were uh, we were taught not to speak about those things. We could not
Hmm.
speak.
Mm.
We were actually voiceless. आप ये बोल सकते हैं कि हमारा voice ही नहीं था. But this
Right.
generation, they are so vocal. I mean, I'm so fascinated why they are.
yeah, I really
Open mind.
appreciate.
Yes,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I'm actually fascinated. They keep their voice so loud and clear about everything. Like they can ask many things. Like why cannot even my daughter, I mean my daughter-in-law, they asked me like why cannot we enter a temple when we are on our periods? Why cannot a daughter perform the last rites of their parents? So many things. Why cannot a transgender couple adopt children? there are so many things they ask, no? So this vocal attitude actually not only made them confident, as I believe, it has made their place in the society very secure and strong.
Mm.
I
Mm.
believe that way. So I would like to have that. I still don't have many things I am keeping inside me, which I'm unable to speak. But then I would like to have that. And I wish you should be more vocal, more clear and loud, and more, I mean, confident about what you feel, what is your, what you need in life, about your needs, about everything.
Srishti, is there any, I mean, this is the last question we are asking you. Is there anything you've learned from this generation, from either our generation or the previous generation? Only one thing, if you could say, which has positively impacted you and will have a positive impact for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this question while you asked ma'am about what she learned from our generation. I really think that one thing that I'll take from all of you guys and the previous generation is the kind of service that they provide to the elders. I've seen Mama Nani providing immense, like, selfless service to her mother-in-law while she was really sick. I've seen the same with my mother doing it for her parents and for her in-laws. I've seen that my Masi doing it for her in-laws. I've seen that throughout my life and throughout my family, throughout all every member of my family. Basic respect and the acts of service is one quality that we could all take up. Like, our generation is plagued by hate crimes. So I think if we could learn to love a bit more, accept more, and serve more, put ourselves little at the back seat, because as she said, as Nani said, that we are so vocal about our feelings that we fail to see what other people are going through. So the acts of service value could really help us, become better humans.
Mm.
Very wonderfully said.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, both of you, so much for being here.
thank you both of you.
I
Thank
think
you
this
so
has
Thank
been a
much.
you, thank
very
you, thank you,
enlightening conversation. Yeah, it's been a
Very
very
enlightening.
enlightening conversation.
thank you
And
all
we've
for
got
having
to
me.
know both the generations, the one below us and the one above us, really, really well.
Wow, what a wonderful discussion. At the end of the day, whether young or old, understanding, love, and little humor are what truly bridge the gap. So instead of fighting over, oof, kids these days, or oof, they don't get it, maybe we should all just embrace the fact that every generation is a little ridiculous in its own way.
I
Yeah.
think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you both for joining us today, and to our viewers, let us know in the comments what's that one thing you've learned from another generation. Until next time, keep the conversations going. So that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.